What's up? Today we are going to be putting some parts on a Demon. It's been a while since I've done a video, and it's been even longer since I've done a little how-to video, but let me show you what we're going to be putting on this Demon today. Alright, so we got a set of forced Interchiller's blower spacers. This is going to go sandwiched in between the block and the Supercharger. What it does is it prevents heat soak coming from the block soaking up into the Supercharger. And this comes along the bolts, obviously, because we're stepping it up from the block. Then we have this nifty little blanket here, and it's a heat rejection blanket. So it's peel and stick on the back, and right here it resists up to 1200 degrees. And this is going to go on the belly of the blower, and that's going to prevent any heat that rises up from the valley pan soaking into the blower. So you have an IAT sensor that's, like at the front of the Supercharger, so it can get heat soaked and provide false readings. So stepping this up is going to give you a more accurate intake air temp. Then this Demon has a bad throttle body, so sometimes that happens, and so we're going to be putting a new throttle body on. Then we had a Metco pulley on here on this Demon, but it's slipping, and as they all do, so we are going to be putting one of these griptec pulleys on. This is a 10 rib pulley from griptec. It's the same size as what we're taking off at 265. If you can see here, these things are like laser cut little grooves into the pulley. This thing does not slip. I've ran it on a couple other cars and a couple other cars that previously were slipping, and it doesn't slip. So we're going to get started on pulling the Supercharger off, and I'll show you kind of step by step. Lots of videos out doing that, but hey, we're going to pull the Supercharger off of this for all of our people that haven't seen that done yet. So let's get started. Pull the Supercharger off, or to do any of the stuff that we're doing, but when you have a lift, you use it. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys a little bit about this car. This goes for Hellcats, Demons, wide bodies. They're all the same as far as this goes. So there's a few bolts that are here in the back that are underneath this little support bar. This support bar kind of has a little stay for the windshield wipers. Then of course we have our cowling here and our wipers. So what you have to do, first step, is remove the wiper blades. Then you can take the cowl off. It's held in by just a couple of clips. Then there's two 13 millimeters, two here and two over there where the computer is at. Then you can kind of take the support bar off. You don't have to completely remove the wiper motor, but you do have to take the little rubber hanger from this support bar, and I'll show you guys that. Once you get that off, then you can get to all the bolts. So what I like to do on these, so I don't have to completely take off all the hoses and stuff, is I haven't decided yet. I'm either going to take off the coolant channel that runs here in the back. You can probably barely see that, and basically that supplies intercooler coolant to both sides of the chiller that's inside the Supercharger. So I'm either going to just take it off by the hose, or just undo. There's two bolts on the back here and two bolts on the back side that are these Torx here. Then that way I don't have to mess with any of the lines and hoses. Then of course we'll take the fuel rails off. This one has a 4 fuel system on it, so a little bit different than factory. Then we'll undo the pulley, the belt here. And as you can see, I'm going to show you a little bit. See all that black dust that's kicking around everywhere? That right there, my friends, is belt slip. So if you got some slip, can be normal, but when you have excessive amounts of that, then of course, if you watch your readings on your dash, you can see that kind of fluctuates. Let's see, look at that. That is belt dust right there. So definitely slipping. Even with this additional tensioner on here, if you're not running a griptec, you're slipping. So we will have to drain the intercooler coolant, and we'll refill it. But let's get started on taking some of this apart. Alright, so on the wiper here, Just take a little screwdriver, just kind of get underneath this little cap here, just kind of gently pry up on it. It's just held in by little plastic clips that just have a little bit of retention on them, so that's all that holds it in. Then we have 15 millimeter here. Then we'll just pop all these clips up. Now, obviously one of these is longer than the other one. I just kind of, when I take them off, I lay them on the ground kind of in the same way that they came off, so I don't get that backwards. But anyway, if you do, it's not a big deal. You're going to clearly see that if you put the driver's side on the passenger side, it's going to hang over, so definitely a difference there. Alright, so got the bar off, got the Torx bits all taken off, and the 10 millimeter bolts to pull the supercharger down. I still have to get the fuel rails off. I probably should have done that before, but it really doesn't matter either way. So I'll get the fuel rails off, then got the belt off, then we can get the coolant undone from the back. I think I'm just gonna undo the hoses, honestly. So I think that's just gonna be the easier method. But once we get that, then I'll phone in a friend to lift this supercharger up. We can flip it around on its belly, then get that blower spacer blanket put into place, then get the spacers all mounted. Then we can get the snout off and get this pulley changed out. I had to phone in a friend here to get this blower off because it's rather heavy, but got the fuel rails kind of just pushed off to the back. It's a little different taking these off because it's a 4 triple pump setup, return style, so it's a little bit different than the factory procedure to take off. But I want to show you guys, I put these gaskets back on here so you could see one of the benefits of adding these blower spacers. Okay, so these have integrated gaskets. Let me take these little doodads off here so I don't drop them. All right, so the factory gasket right here is the it's an oil drain back. Now the 6.4, this is basically like it's a similar castings, but the 6.4 liter uses the oil filler cap is right here, and on this one the oil filler cap is on the rocker cover, the valve cover. So what they did was how they made this gasket, this casting is still there, even switching over to this style of engine for the Demon, Hellcat, Trackhawk, etc. They're all the same. But what they did was this gasket for the the intake gaskets, you can see here it's all metal reinforced with the exception of this part right here. And look at it, there's no reinforcement there. So over time and with increased boost pressure, you can actually lose boost. It can actually blow out this gasket and pressurize the crankcase, and that's bad. That's real bad. So this blower spacer has the integrated gasket, and as you can see, there's no chance this thing could ever blow through. All right, so we got the blower off, and as you can see on the bottom side here, all that dust, that's slipping. Metco is a great company, great pulley. They were first to market, but as with anything, as time goes by, there's improvements in the market. So thankfully, this griptec pulley answered the the call for what do we do about belt slip. So as you can see here, this is the same size pulley. It's a 10 rib, 2.65 inch. But if you look here, it's just smooth. So there's a good chance for slipping. This right here, it's actually cut, and I don't know what the procedure is, but this one doesn't slip. Very slim chance of slipping. So we're gonna get this blower snout off, and I'm gonna show you the tool setup in order to get this off. So stay tuned. Fast forward, we had to take a little bit of time off for the Memorial Day weekend, so we closed up early on Friday and we're closed on Monday. So we're back at it on Wednesday right now. So it's been a few days since we've messed with this thing, but we got everything all buttoned up. We got the griptec pulley torqued on properly with blue Loctite on the snout. See right here on the snout, and as well as these are torqued properly, the pulley to the actual hub. So now what we have to do is put some of this anaerobic sealer, just a tiny little light coat. It's a little difficult to get inside here, so I'm just gonna put it here on this side. Then we're going to get this tightened up properly. Then that's it. Then we'll set the supercharger back down. We got the blower spacer plates all mounted. Real nice. So moving along quite nicely. So we're on the home stretch. Almost done. All right, so this is the last stage. We got the snout all bolted back on. Any excess sealer, we like wiping that up. Then we got the belly blanket here from Force Interchillers installed. We got it cut to fit. I like wrapping it around the back. This is only the second one that I've done, but I like wrapping it around the back of the supercharger. Try to get it as tucked in as good as I can, but you know, you only get one shot at it. But I like the way this one is. It fits nice and tight in there. Then I trimmed a little bit more off. I didn't do this on the first one that I did, but had a little bit of excess material, so I trimmed that off and fit it here in the front of that snout. So I figured, hey, every extra little bit helps. Didn't want to go too crazy adding stuff everywhere else, because it's just going to look silly if it starts to come off. At least this being underneath, it's not going to go anywhere if certain areas were to pull up or whatnot. So it's ready to go back on. So this is where you phone in a friend to get you to help set this thing back down. So we're going to get that done. Alright, I want to show you guys real quick. When filling these cooling systems, I always go back with the Mopar antifreeze that's already 50-50 diluted. You don't add water because it's distilled water that they add to it. And as you can see, it's rated for 10 years or 150,000 miles, which is some pretty good stuff. But there's a bleeder back here, so anytime I have the supercharger off where this coolant is drained, I always crack open this bleeder, so any possibility of any air leak, of any air trapped in the system, gives it a chance to burp it out now instead of later throwing a supercharger air down the road. So it's pretty simple. You just crack it open, and as soon as coolant starts to come out, which we got a little bit here, but as soon as coolant starts to come out, then all the air, basically that means the air is risen to the top. As you can see, it starts to bubble in the back, let a little bit run out. So once that's done, then I just tighten it back up, then it's nice and full. All right, it's alive. Zoom in here. There's the blower spacers. Got the new griptec pulley. Put a new throttle body on. The throttle body was bad. Got the cooling all bled out already. It's all topped up. Should be very minimal amount of coolant needed, if any. So we're gonna let this thing get up to temperature. Once it gets up to temperature, make sure there's no problems, no check engine lights. Then I'm gonna take it off the rack. I'm gonna wash it down real quick.
Then I'll put the windshield wiper cowling on, then go take it for a test drive.